That's a really weird sexual fetish. I like to go to hospitals and fiddle people's kidneys.
Hey man, don't knock it till you try it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai, and joining me tonight, I have our Wizard of Wait What, Chinoda.
My body is sore. I've actually been working out. It's a mistake. Don't do it, people. Stay unhealthy.
I cannot condone what he's saying, and our Chivalry of Shota's Shotaro.
Onii-chan no chinchin sugoi.
Oh my god. Well, as he's expertly pointed out there, that's one of the things we're going to be talking about tonight. But before we actually get into that, we have a little bit of news and announcements to cover. First of all, we recently, just this week, or last week now, had our Best Boy and Best Girl Hall of Fame votes end. So thank you to all of you out there who voted for this via our website and through the Facebook links I put on our Facebook group, which you should definitely go join if you haven't already.
We have 200 people in there now.
We
Holy
have more
shit.
than 200 people. We have about 207 now since the last time I checked. But yeah, it's definitely growing, and definitely join because there's a lot of good stuff that gets posted there, art and a lot of memes and some lewds. So yeah, definitely check that out if you get a chance, and definitely become a follower there. But yeah, I want to go ahead and announce the results of the Hall of Fame vote. So joining the Hall of Fame, Best Boy Hall of Fame class of 2018, we have our Best Boy of 2017, Rei Kiriyama from March Comes In Like a Lion. And then entering the Hall of Fame through the Hall of Fame vote, we have Yuri Katsuki from Yuri on Ice, Izaya Orihara from Durarara, Jotaro Kujo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop, and last but not least, we have Alucard from Hellsing.
My boy?
Yeah, my boy. My vampire boy. Although he's not so much a best boy as a best man.
He's
Just
not
saying.
even a man. He's just a eldritch entity.
You make a good point. Anyway, moving on. And then in the Best Girl Hall of Fame class of 2018, we have our Best Girl 2017, Hitagi Senjigahara from Owari Monogatari Season 2. And then from the Hall of Fame vote, we have Yuki Nagato from The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. We have Winry Rockbell from Full Metal Alchemist, Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop, Yuri Hirasawa from K-On!, and Celty Sturluson from Durarara. So, again, thank you to everyone out there who voted. And if your favorite Best Girl didn't make it in this year's Hall of Fame vote, there's always next year. And, of course, we also have, throughout this year, 2018, we'll have our seasonal Best Boy and Best Girl tournaments going on. So,
All I will say to that is, all those characters that we just listed off, that one can get the dick. Just saying.
Okay. Moving on. I will say that in the 2 years now that we've done this, I think that Yuri Katsuki ended up getting the highest percentage of votes for a Hall of Fame vote. So I think he ended up getting like almost 25% of the vote. So that was pretty cool.
Sheesh.
So now we have both Victor and Yuri in the Hall of Fame. Just saying.
Where they belong together.
Yeah, exactly. They do belong together. So a bit of news that I personally want to talk about. So if you've listened to this podcast or if you follow our Facebook group, if you've done that for any length of time, you know that I am obsessed with Virtua YouTuber Keys in the Eye. Well, it was announced early last week that she is getting her own 30-minute long terrestrial television show. It's going to be a variety show where Onii-chan will be like introducing and talking about the latest trends in music, anime, gaming, and internet culture. I'm assuming a lot of this is going to be limited to like Japanese culture, music, anime, and gaming. But it's been absolutely amazing as someone who follows her to watch how much her popularity has grown and just exploded. I really hope this TV show does well because I think it will lead to even bigger, better things. Because anime win. When is she gonna get her own anime? That's all I want to know.
Technically, she is her own anime.
You could say that. I mean, she's definitely an animated character, and she does anime-like things. Yeah, she's got 1.5, actually, all closer to 1.6 million subscribers on YouTube now. So, I mean, if you haven't heard of her, you kind of live under a rock, I think. But yeah, I'm happy. I know, Show, you fucking hate Kizunai.
What?
I don't understand the appeal. What can I say?
It's okay.
You ignorant slut.
Rude.
Yeah.
Rude.
Yes, exactly. Rude. But if you are interested in checking it out, the show is called. It has a weird name. Kizunai no Beat Scramble is the title of the show, and it premieres on April 6th on BSN or BSN, I think is actually how it's pronounced. In Japan. Hopefully there'll be a legal way to watch it outside of Japan, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Crunchyroll, pick it up.
Wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't.
Actually, no, it wouldn't surprise me, given how popular she is. If like either Crunchyroll or Funimation or one of those, streaming services does pick it up. And then we have one other piece of news, which actually will segue into what we are going to be talking about for our topic night. Actually, it was the end of last year. The creator of Rurouni-Kenshin.
Oh no!
I know. Nobuhiro Watsuki. He was caught in a little compromising situation when it was discovered that he was in possession of some child pornography, quite a bit of child pornography, as it turns out.
And when you say child pornography, you mean depictions or films of actual children.
Yes, it was DVDs of like real life, like 3D children, and they were very, very young. However, it came out last week that
like concerningly young or okay for Japan.
No, what are you saying? Don't even.
Yeah, that's not. I'm not even going to entertain that as a joke. Jesus Christ. No, it was young, like elementary school age kids. And this is not surprising if you consider who Watsuki is, because he has actually said publicly that he only likes looking at girls who are in late elementary school or middle school. Those are the only girls that appeal to him. So he is actually like a publicly admitted lolicon, like in real life. So he's kind of a creepy dude, but he made Rurouni-Kenshin, so he's not so bad. But no, what he did was absolutely terrible. But what was even more terrible was the news that came out last week that he was fined. Brace yourself. He was fined 200,000 yen, and that's it. No jail time, no prison time, no community service. A 200,000 yen fine. And if you're asking yourself, well, that sounds like a lot of money. Well, at current currency prices, that equals about $1,900. So less than $2,000 for possessing child pornography. That's not a punishment. That's a slap on the wrist.
Hell, to call it even a slap on the wrist is a joke.
Yeah,
it is a joke.
If this is what Japan considers like a criminal justice system, it is a joke. I don't know how either of you personally feel about how people who actually are into child porn, but that's not right.
Oh no, it's definitely like what happened to him is just baffling. Like, I can't believe that Japan would think it's like they're just treating this crime as something like civil, like not even it's like not a serious crime, when this is like one of the most serious crimes you could commit, and you're only gonna get 1,900 USD fine. Are you kidding me? Like, if I park in a fucking handicap parking lot, I could get 1,900 USD fine. Is that the equivalent severity of the crime that Japan is trying to say as possessing child pornography? Like, that's just ridiculous.
It's setting such a low bar for what justice is supposed to be.
Now, I do wonder if it is because of the position the man himself is in as a public figure.
I think that has something to do with it, being that he is like kind of a star. In a sense,
it's even worse.
I mean, it makes it worse, but I think that is why it happened the way it is. It's because he's in the public eye. I mean, I can't really think of another reason. He should have. This is my personal opinion. He should have gotten jail time. He should have gone to jail for at least 10 years.
He definitely should have gone to jail. And I think I don't know about what date this statistic is from, but I've heard that Japan's conviction rate is 100%. So that means that everyone who is charged of a crime gets convicted, which to me tells me that Japan's police system is very problematic. Yeah. I'm no criminologist, but I feel like there are a lot of problems in the police and criminal justice system in Japan, and this is just another mark on that, because this is stupid. It's so disproportional to the crime.
Yeah, and I've heard that statistic before. I don't think it's quite 100%, but it's insanely high. Like it's in excess of 90%. And it makes me wonder if like those if those Ace Attorney games are actually supposed to be a parody of real life Japanese criminal justice.
That would be amazing if it was.
No, it's not, because the criminal justice system in Ace Attorney is fucked up beyond belief. But I don't know. I mean, I read this and it legit made me angry, because I don't care how famous you are, if you're into watching kids get real life children get fucked, you're sick. I'm sorry, but you are.
I feel like I've heard of a trend where photographers do gravure images of underage children, and that's illegal. And gravure is like, if you don't know what that is, that's like erotic positions in semi-revealing clothes, but not pornographic.
Yeah, you don't see like genitalia and stuff.
But I think that's legal and like not common, but like it's a thing in Japan. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know about the Japanese sensibilities about child abuse. Because like I also know that there's a big problem with rape in Japan, where it's like the police don't take it seriously. So just sexual crimes in Japan, I feel, are not really, they're not taking them too seriously. Yeah.
Well, and you hear all the stories about women getting groped on subways and stuff.
Yeah. And I don't know how true that is.
But it's to the point where I have seen pictures in actual like Japanese subway cars where it says, "Please don't grope women." Like, if you have to be told that, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But anyway, Shinoda, do you have anything else to say about this before we go into our topic?
God damn pedos.
Oh, look at that. A wild John appeared, everybody. Woo!
Holy shit.
The Lolicon is among us.
The lowly gods have summoned me.
Yes. They are benevolent, but sometimes they are angry.
Angry.
Anyway. Angry. God. Never trust Oring. Never. Anyway, moving on. So, segueing off of our last news article right there, tonight's topic is a little bit heavy for some people. So the topic tonight is about lolis, shotas, and child sexuality in anime, manga, and in the broad sense of Japanese society. So, take it for what it is. And also, just to point it out at the beginning, this show might run a little longer than our usual episodes, because we actually do have quite a fair amount of points to talk about. And a lot of these will probably take a little bit of discussion. So we'll start off with the first point of discussion. That is to define the terms loli and shota as what they mean to us. So, John, what does a loli or a shota mean to you?
All right. As king of the lolicons, I hereby decree that a loli is someone who just looks like a child, but is not necessarily a child. And what that means is flat chest, supple little buttocks, and in general acts like a 10-year-old. That's a loli.
I thought you were going to keep us out of jail, not put us in it.
I'm not. This is... All right, first of all, lolicon... Hold on. Wait, shit, I don't have the page up. Fuck.
God damn it.
You unprepared, sloppy mess.
But to me, on the real, the definition of lolicon is just any anime character drawn in the style of, like, they're supposed to look young. As in, I'd say less than the age of 14, right? Like, right before someone develops. So they obviously should not have, like, giant tits. Oppai lolis are not real lolis. Fuck anyone who says that. It's not true. They do not exist.
Oh.
We'll get into that a little bit later.
Starting wars early.
And shotas are the same thing. If they're meant to look like they're 14 and under, I'd say they were lolis or shotas. That's where I draw the line, regardless of age or not.
I would draw the line below 17, personally.
Oh, okay.
My. Isn't that above your strike zone?
Oh, shut up.
Please don't arrest us and send us to jail, FBI. Big Brother could.
Hey, FBI, relax. It's for a podcast.
That just doesn't fly.
FBI man, shut up. It's just for a podcast. Shinoda, what do you think? What is this loli or a shota to you?
To me personally, it can just be someone that looks young, below the age of 13, let's say. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sexualized younging.
Younging? A
younging.
A younging.
Gotta throw some of that American term in there.
American. I think that's Sri Lankan for kid. But anyway.
The fuck? No.
Anyway, I kind of agree with
everyone.
Shinoda a little bit that I personally don't think age has much to do with it as so much as appearance, and I also don't think it has to the character doesn't have to be sexualized to be a loli or a shota. They can just appear that way and be used for a variety of other reasons. But I was interested that it was interesting to me that none of you mentioned like personality in any of this. Do you think that personality of a character doesn't like factor into the appeal of a loli or a shota?
All right, so here's the deal. The personality of your loli is very subjective, and to me, I think classifying something as a loli or a shota is just body type. That's pure just physical. Like, it's a physical, like, I like the flat chest, twin tails little girl or boy, whichever.
Equal opportunity. Yeah, I mean,
I would have to agree that it's much more a physical thing than a personality.
Okay.
Because, like, the personality varies. Like, you could really have any personality. The defining traits are mostly physical, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I mean, and piggybacking off that, going into our second point that we wanted to talk about, what is it about lolis and shotas that either we or the public at large or the fan base at large find appealing about lolis and shotas?
All right, I'm gonna hijack this again as resident king
of
lolicons. I personally love lolis and shotas just because they're cute as shit. Like, I love moe. I love cute things. I love just staring at these animated small children. Like in, God. Oh, man. I say I love the show, and yet I don't remember. Gakuen Babysitters. Like, have you seen these little children? They're, like, 2 years old and 3 years old, and they're just, like, running around being little children. They're so cute. Right?
That's the one airing this season, right?
Yes, that's a show airing this season, and that's just an example of like cute things that I like looking at. Another one that I know is pretty famous because it's literally just pandering towards lolicons is The Order of Rabbit. Like, the literal synopsis of the first season of the anime was just a cute show about cute girls. That's literally what it said on Mal. And I was like, I'm hooked. I'm fucking watching it. And I watched it season 1. And I'm like, oh my god, this is super cute. And all these girls are like, I think some of them are 14, 15. One of them 16. I don't know. But they're all drawn in the style of loli. Because they're all just cute and like rabbits. And I just want to pet them all day. No sexual, nothing. They're just so cute. You must protect.
And Gakuen Babysitters isn't sexual in any way, right?
No, not at all. It's just about this brother who takes care of his younger brother, and he's also a babysitter for the school. And it's actually very sweet and cute, and it actually made me cry when I read the manga because of like, because the backstory of like why
messy lolicon, right?
It's so sad, like why the older brother takes care of the kids and like why it becomes that he has to take care of his younger brother. I'm just like, I feel so sorry for you. And it's like they do these scenes where the little brother Kotaro meets I think Ryuji is this the older brother's name. I don't remember the older brother's name. I only care about the kids. Anyway, please don't arrest me.
Wow, can we get a clip of that?
No,
please
don't arrest me. Anyway. I
don't care about the older brother. I only care about the kids.
I mean, the older brother is cute too because he takes care. Like, he's so sweet, and I'm just like, I wish you were like related to me somehow. I would pet you all day as well.
This is taking a dark turn.
Just saying, they're all cute. Watch the show. Just cute. I'm done.
The way you describe Gakuen Babysitters reminds me of Poco's Udon World, where there's a Shota character that is like not sexual in any way, but like super cute and adorable. So this is definitely that appeal of lollies and shotas, where it's just pure, like, not sexual, just
innocence. They're just cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're cute and they're innocent. And also Poco's Udon World. Oh my god. Oh, I love Poco. He's so cute. I love cute things.
Now you bring up another point, like, is that something like you say Gakuen Babysitters or Poco's Udon World, is that something that, even though it doesn't sexualize the loli or the shota characters, is it still a show that could appeal to a shotakon or a lolicon?
I can't speak.
I definitely think.
Oh, go ahead.
You can't speak.
I can't speak.
Oh, he can speak.
I can speak, obviously. I can't speak for other people who want to call themselves lolicons or shotakons, but for me personally, I just like cute things. And it just so happens that because I like cute things, I'm considered a lolicon. So just pointing that out.
I think that the fan base for lewd lolicon and shotakon and the fan base for like super cute non-sexual are pretty different. I feel like the appeal is pretty different, and I feel that some people in one fan base may not necessarily fall into the other fan base as well, but I do think there is some intersection.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I think that shows like Gakuen Babysitters and Poco's Udon World kind of point that out.
How so?
By showing that you don't necessarily have to be like the stereotypical overly sexualized shota to just enjoy it for what it is, or loli to just enjoy it for what it is, a cute character being and acting cute.
And also, like, it's a completely different mood and tone, where it's like with Poco's Udon World with the moe cute loli shotas, it's like a family show. Like, it's just wholesome and it's just a good time. And then when you get to the sexual, it's like kind of weird, but kind of like it puts
still
you
a
on
good
the
time
edge,
for you.
you know? Yeah, like it's just a different experience. I feel it's very different in some ways.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. Which kind of leads into the next thing. Do any of you believe that overtly sexualized depictions of lolis or shotas constitute a form of child pornography and or pedophilia, assuming that you like it?
Okay, first of all, I think that the questions of child pornography and pedophilia are two very different things. So, like...
Well, considering that you wrote this...
No, you changed it. This is not the original phrasing I used. But, so pedophilia in particular, do lollies and shotas arouse the same feelings that a pedophile would feel for an actual child? That's where is it a form of pedophilia. And then child pornography is a completely different thing, where it's a legal thing and an ethical thing. So there's two different questions.
That's true. I mean, that's very true, because it's actually, as sick as it may be, it's technically not illegal to be a pedophile. It's only illegal to act on pedophilic instincts.
Correct.
But, you know, in this society that we live in, if we know that someone likes diddling kids or likes the thought of diddling kids, we don't like them. I mean,
but not all child molesters are pedophiles, and not all pedophiles are child molesters. There actually is... They're not all the same.
That's true, and I don't believe in restricting their freedoms. If they don't act on their urges and they're responsible with themselves, they don't cause any harm to, like, real-life children, then who am I to say that they can't have their 2D lolicon porn, right?
Like,
so
there's
are you
a
implying
huge
that
difference
the 2D
between...
lolicon porn satisfies pedophilic urges?
I honestly don't know. Maybe. Because it's hard to describe. When you think of pedophilia, it's more of a, like, brain disorder. They're just wired to be sexually attracted to young children, whether it's age or body type. There's pedophiles out there who only go for, like, little girls or little boys under a certain age, or if they only go for a certain body type. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then sometimes they'll be like, you know, you have pedophiles who they'll date 18, 20-year-olds who look like they're 10-year-old, but they're technically not, like, doing anything illegal, right?
Technically
Sure.
not. So
yeah, I mean, assuming that they're above
it.
the age of consent, then yeah, they're not doing anything that's illegal, regardless of how they look. But I definitely think that Sho is right when he says that there is for sure a disconnect between child pornography and pedophilia, because one is a state of mind, whereas another is an actual act that has to be done. Because you can't have child pornography without actually having a child and filming them doing some form of act that is pornographic. So I definitely think there's a disconnect. But John also points out that, I mean, is it okay if people who are pedophiles, can they use stuff like Shota and loli porn as a form of therapy to keep them from offending?
I think it has been used as a form of therapy.
There actually have been studies done on this too, which support this very statement.
Yeah.
And honestly, thinking logically, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and it makes even more sense than there's been this idea of, well, there's already child pornography out there. Why don't we give it to people who are non-offending pedophiles? The deed's already been done. Just give it to them so they don't actually act on the urges. Whereas you could say that's, I know that's kind of like iffy.
No. This is
the
really
slippery slope there.
Yeah, because you're not thinking about the victim, all right? Because I do know of a case.
Oh, really?
I do know of a case where there was a child pornography thing that was distributed. It was very major, and it's of this one lady, and she was on this talk show. Like, she's all grown up. She's like 20 plus years old, and she talks about how like it hurts her because she knows that there's still sick fucks out there with videos of her being abused. And I think that itself is wrong. Like, we should not be distributing that around because a child was hurt. Even if it's already in the past, you can't just be like, well, I mean, it's not happening right now to her, but what about the victim? How does she feel knowing that there are sick fucks getting their rocks off to her being abused?
If you put this in like a broader context, like video evidence of crimes, it's like illegal to possess that. So why would it be okay to possess a video of someone raping a child?
True.
So it just doesn't make sense to have
I'm not saying that I actually agreed with that. I'm just saying it is something that's been put out there as I don't agree with it. I completely agree with John. It's still sick, and it should just be destroyed. Anytime they find like physical copies of child porn or even digital, it should just be destroyed. But I don't think you have that same thing when you have 2D representations of lolis and shotas. Like, there is no victim because it's a drawing.
But then people do argue that 2D still supports the claim that, well, since it's fine in 2D, it's going to urge people who are sick in the mind to think, well, since it's allowed on the internet to be 2D, why can't I do it 3D? That's what
see, okay.
See, the thing about that is those people, if they can't possibly fathom to comprehend the fact that that's not okay, they're already that far gone. There is a clear difference between people who can think and can't at that point.
I completely agree with you, Shinoda, here, because I personally believe that people who are pedophiles, they're just wired like that. It's not something that they picked up. It's just something that's inside their head. They were born like this, and if they don't have enough of a will to control themselves, and they will go over the edge, if we allow 2D porn, right? And then they suddenly just go on a raping spree or something, that person would have never made it anyway, regardless of having the 2D there or not. I personally don't believe that the 2D art form helps them like decide whether it's fine to do it or not. That's just a state of mind for this person.
It's the same argument you see with any depiction of a crime where, the criminal would do it whether the media existed or not. Like, maybe the media enabled them, but there's a million other things that could enable them, and it's not really the media's fault. It's the criminal who is taking the media and using it as an excuse to commit these crimes.
Yeah, because people argue that the media it's a platform. We're giving them a platform in which that this cooks in their mind and it stews, and they somehow twist it and think it's okay. So people want to remove that platform.
If you erased every single possible platform that could trigger a criminal, you'd be blind. So there's really no point because like. The main issue here is the criminal mindset, which you should, if you want to prevent potential criminals, I would suggest lobbying for more accessible therapy and like for screening of like possible criminals, because I don't think that the censorship of media is gonna really help the issue. I think it's a very roundabout. I also think it's a very tokenistic way for politicians to seem like they're trying to actually address an issue when they just want to procrastinate it, because I don't think censoring media is going to really help help anyone. It's not going to prevent crime. It's just a tokenistic, I care about preventing crime, but it's
certainly not censoring any kind of artistic expression like as like a be all end all is not going to end crime. Like people who have a criminal mentality are still going to commit crimes regardless of whether you take the capacity away from them or not.
And also how we brought up about the real child pornography of actual children, and like what is the ethical problem with having it after the deed is done. I understand that the ethical problem is that by keeping it in circulation, you're contributing to the commercialization of that product, which increases the industry demand for that product, which obviously it makes the industry more viable for people who produce child pornography, which is a crime. So that's, how I understand it, that's the main problem with keeping videos of child pornography in circulation, whereas that problem doesn't exist for Lolicon Shotokan because it doesn't really contribute to any crime being committed. So there's a difference there as well.
There's no victim, so there's no crime.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is a victim with child pornography that had because it was implied that there's no victim because it's already been committed, but there are future victims
for sure.
There are future victims for videos of child pornography being in circulation, which is why it's illegal.
I was gonna make a distasteful joke about the only real victim is the sperm, but
honey,
that was in poor taste. I'm sorry.
I don't even get the joke, but let's move on from that, please.
The sperm died. He was.
Yeah, the sperm died. That's the victim. That's the joke.
Whatever.
It's not so funny if I have to explain it to you. But before I move on, are we in somewhat of agreement that while child porn is by definition illegal, like depictions of loli and shotokan porn shouldn't be made illegal?
I don't think so. No.
For the same reason I just stated about how real porn contributes to an industry of criminal activities while loli shota porn does not, I think that loli shota porn is not child pornography for that reason.
Okay. What about you, Chinoda?
Agree with Sho, honestly. There's nothing much else I can add on to that. End of the day, it's 2D drawings or animations, whatever. No one's getting hurt. What's the big deal?
Fair enough. All right, we'll move on to...
Wait, one more thing. About the pedophilia thing. So we've discussed how it's different from child porn, but I feel, at least personally, that being a shotokan or a lolicon is a different mindset than being a pedophile. I feel it's a different set of attraction, and I don't think they're the same thing. I definitely think there's a very big distinction. What do you guys feel about that? Do you think it's the same thing? What is
I definitely think there's a distinction because of just how it's portrayed. It's very as we'll talk about in another point that's coming up. It's an artistic exaggeration.
It is. It's very exaggerated. It's very surreal
there's no human being in the world that's ever had eyes that have been that big and,
come on.
and a facial structure that looks like any loli or shota I've ever seen.
That's true. But also just the way they act, the way they talk, just the context, the situation, and it's all extremely fictional, and I feel like it is very obvious that it is a fictional depiction. And I do feel like there is a very large difference between attraction for this really blatantly fictional art style and attraction to actual children.
I would say there's definitely a difference, yes.
Do you have any opinions, John?
I completely agree. Like I explained before, there are pedophiles and there are lolicons. To me, a lolicon, again, how I am, is that I just like cute things. And it's not limited to just little boys and girls. I love dogs. I love cute figures. I love plushies. Oh
my, going into bestiality.
It's for a different cast.
That's a topic for another episode.
But then, and then there are pedophiles, actual pedophiles. They care about the look that they actually look like they're young, or whether their age is appropriate or not. Because it's even if they look, let's say they look like a 10-year-old, but they're 30 years old, they'd be like, oh, fuck that. That's gross. That's an old bag, right? There's a difference.
That's interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah, because most lolicon goers, they're just like, regardless of age, like, it's okay because she's 500 years old, and it's like, oh, it's fine because she's 2D, right? There's always the excuse of like, they don't really care about age. They just care about how they look and how they're perceived. If a character, a lolicon character, or a lolly character is portrayed as just super sweet and super cute, that's all the fans or the lolicons would just love about the character. That's it. It doesn't matter like if they're 15, 16, or 100 or 1,000 years old.
It's
so
not
for you,
the
it's
age.
a lot. It's a lot about the personality of just being cute and moe.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll move on to our next. Actually, there's 2 points that are somewhat related here. The question is, why are lolis and shotas so commonly associated with pedophilia, while high school characters are not? And then, considering the ubiquity of a high school age cast in anime and manga, is lolicon/shotacon the only option if an anime chooses to include sexual themes? Well,
now I know you
go
had
ahead. No, go ahead.
I know you had a gripe with the wording of the pedophilia with the high schoolers.
Yes. Okay, so I was talking to these guys before. So there's actually different kinds of pedophilia if you want to get specific about it. Pedophilia, by definition, is a sexual attraction to anyone, what was it, 13 or younger?
Prepubescent, so around
prepubescent. So
younger.
any age before puberty. So that's like the literal definition of pedophilia. And then you have hebephilia, which is attraction to individuals who are currently going through puberty, so pubescence. So typically between the ages of 11 and 14. And then after that, you have the ephebophilia, which is basically anyone who is post-pubescent, so 14 to 18 or 19. Mm-hmm. So, by definition, it's a high schooler, like even a sexualized high school character, is not technically pedophilia if you go by that literal definition of it.
So I would say instead, why is there such a stigma against pedophilia and not a pedophilia meaning prepubescent and not ephebophilia, which would be just post-pubescent, like 15 to 17, but still illegal.
Yeah, I'm not sure personally. I'm not sure if this has more to do with like Japanese society or like Asian society in general being more open to the idea of like a lower age of consent or, you know, whatever, because like I don't know. This is kind of it's a lot of semantics in my mind.
Also, like, I'm really talking about what the Western fan base has categorized, because this is because I don't know what the Japanese fan base is like. So because the Western fan base has a problem. Well, some of the Western fan base has a problem with prepubescent, but postpubescent is fine, even though it's still illegal in Western countries. So I don't get it.
Yeah, like maybe an example of this that I thought of was Yoko from Gurren Lagann. She's like, what, 14, right?
14 years old, and she does not look it at all.
Yeah, it's like they portray her as she's supposed to be some middle school, high school character. She has like giant titties and wears like hardly nothing. She's literally wearing a bikini top and like Daisy Dukes, right?
Yeah.
And it's like she's obviously...
And she acts very adult.
Yeah, and she's obviously sexualized in the series because, you know, look how she's dressed and how they portray her in the show. Yet that's okay, but if you reverse the roles of like, well, she's 14, 15, but she looks younger, it's like, no, you're a pedophile! Fucking go to jail! Like, come on.
So it's basically like the aesthetic that matters, not the age, which is extremely problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can mask your age with a lot of tricks. But...
Yep.
For example, just straight up not looking like your age.
Yeah, I mean, makeup does wonderful things to real people.
It's true. I'll forever look like I'm 20 years old until I hit like 50. Then I'll look like 80. It's how Asian people age. We're cursed.
We are cursed.
He's not entirely wrong about that. But getting back to the point I was trying to make, like, I don't think that lolis and shotas are the only option if an anime chooses to include sexual themes. I don't think that anyone would consider, as John pointed out, I don't think anyone would consider Yoko from Gurren Lagann an actual loli.
No.
See, like, it's common that it's not considered. I'm in disbelief. I'm like, I don't understand why this is okay, but this is not. I don't. Like Citrus, right? I haven't actually watched Citrus. I assume they're in high school.
Yeah, they're.
And there's sexual scenes, I assume. So wouldn't that
there
be
are scenes
like
there are scenes of a sexual nature, but it hasn't been like explicit. Like there hasn't been any nudity.
Okay, well, it is a TV anime, but I assume there's some like pretty on towing the line scenes.
Oh yeah, I mean there's a scene, not to spoil anything, but there is a scene where one of the female characters puts her hand up the skirt of another and starts,
going to town.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or
Really?
even, like,
Straight up? Damn. That's
But I
hot.
mean, they're
same
fully
line.
clothed when this happens.
Still hot.
Along the same line, like Scum's Wish is maybe a more explicit version of what's
Yeah,
happening.
but
in
yeah,
Citrus.
basically, yeah.
So like, but no one cried pedophile or like child molestation in Scum's Wish or
No.
Citrus.
But
it
you can
is.
Also, you can also say the same thing actually happens in the real world, because there's like these stories that you hear of teachers, like high school teachers, having sexual relationships with their students who are of high school age, and they're not labeled pedophiles more times than not.
Wait, what are you talking about? They're not labeled pedophiles? Are you kidding me? Isn't that like against the Board of Education?
Well, yeah, I mean it is against the law, but you typically don't hear teachers that have those kinds of relationships with their students actually labeled pedophiles.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like we're missing a point here. The fact that, jailbait. The term jailbait exists for a reason, because there are a ton of dudes, and I guess maybe girls, that like looking at 16 to 18-year-old women who are just they look really nice, but they're young, right? Like,
wait, that's not jailbait? Oh, that is jailbait.
that's jailbait.
Yeah.
And,
So, shame on you.
A lot of these cases are for like people who are considered jailbait, and it's not technically pedophilia. What did you guys call it? What's the last one? Post-pubescent?
Amphibiophilia.
Yeah, whatever that is. Post-pubescent. These kids, they're technically still kids, you're right. But they're post-pubescent, so they're like young adults, really, is what people kind of see them as. And it's not that bad, because it's like, well, you're 16. At least when I was in high school, 16 years old to 18 years old, there's plenty of people having sex. No one really cared, honestly.
I mean,
I knew a couple girls who were sleeping with men who were 23 years old, like 5 years older than them. And I'm like, that's a little creepy. But again, It's not wrong. It's like,
I mean, I hear a lot of by professional psychologists that a lot of discourse about why pedophilia is so detrimental is that, like, I'm talking about prepubescent pedophilia, is that the brain of the child is still developing, so it's introducing something so, I don't know, intense as sex is very disruptive. I don't know. But the point is that the brain is still developing, and that still applies to post-pubescent children. Their brain is still developing. So, and yes, I agree that in a social context, I feel like Western society accepts post-pubescent attraction as something normal. But from a medical standpoint, you can use the same justification against pedophilia, against prepubescent. You can use the same justification for postpubescent. So, and like in normal society, it's normalized, but should it be?
Probably not, but
probably not, but we do anyway, right?
There's a lot of things
I
we
mean,
do.
maybe that's just a failing of the human species. I don't know.
I would say so.
Okay.
But getting back to the how it's portrayed in anime, I think that it's like you termed it. It's become so ubiquitous you don't even think about it anymore. Like I don't think about it when I watch Citrus that they're in high school, although they clearly are because it's kind of ground into you. I didn't think about it when I watched Scum's Wish.
Yeah, same.
I didn't think about it.
It's like you
Like,
forget
they could've
about
very
it
well been.
because everybody's in high school.
Well, yeah, I mean, you do kind of forget about it when you're watching anime. There are a lot of characters are in high school or of high school age.
And a lot of them don't look like they're in high school or definitely look way too old for high school. It's so weird.
Well, hell, I know, right? Like GTO. Or Cromartie High School. Half of those characters didn't even look like they should be in high school.
Yeah, they look like they should be working in an office.
Exactly. But to point to a show that's airing this season again is Darling in the Franxx. All of those children that are in it are somewhat sexualized, yet they're pretty young.
See,
They're very young.
I definitely thought about that they are too young for this sexual for these sexual themes like immediately. Like that didn't go fly by me.
Well, yeah,
but I don't know if it would fly by other people.
True. I think some of it has to do with how the characters look. I mean, some of the characters, especially 02, she doesn't exactly look young.
No, she looks as she could pass for an adult woman easily.
She does. And I think that's the reason that she is as sexualized as she is, regardless of how her personality is. But I believe that's one of the contributing factors. But, and this is going to be a slight spoiler for a recent episode of Darling the Franxx, so just a couple minutes here. One of the recent episodes, in fact, the most recent episode at the time of this recording, dealt with the children going through puberty all at the same time.
I don't really understand that.
Okay.
I don't understand how the situation that occurred was a reflection of puberty, but okay.
But bear with me.
Oh, I understand it now.
I'm so glad that without even saying anything, I have explained the plot of Darling the Franxx. I am a god. God, I forgot where I was going with this. It makes me wonder if that's going to be like explored as like how if they're going to be more sexualized now that they're going through puberty than they were before.
Hey, they're not prepubescent anymore. It's not pedophilia.
It's technically not pedophilia.
Oh Lord.
But again, that's a recent example that it kind of goes along with what we're saying.
Sure.
I think it has more to do with societal norms than anything else, though.
It definitely plays a part into it.
I mean, if you want to talk about societal norms, I come from a culture where 14, you know, when you're right at the pubescent age, that's where you find a husband, and then by 15, 16, you're popping kids out already. It's normal in my culture for that, you know, being
I feel like
hillbilly
a lot
mountain
of
people.
Cultures are like that.
Yeah, and
if
you think about it, like the lifespan of humans over the last 100 years or so has increased dramatically. In like pre-1900, it really wasn't that like out of the realm of possibility that by the time a woman was 14, she was married and had a kid.
If you fertile, you ready to go.
If you even made it that far, because were very low.
And maybe our response to it is just a delayed reaction to how long our lifespans are getting. I don't know. Something to think about, I think.
I don't know. I'm just saying from my point of view, like as an Asian person, always going to family parties. Like
I get to play the Asian card.
Hey,
not a pedophile. I'm Asian. Not a pedophile. Asian.
Not a pedophile Asian. It's okay in my culture. Anyway, no, like. You know, every time I go to a family gathering, hey, you married yet? You have kids yet? I'm like, no, I'm only like 25. What do you want? And
I get that, and I'm white.
It's a legitimate problem for us Asians, by the way.
Yeah, no, and this starts when you're like fucking 16.
16.
You got a girlfriend yet? You gonna have a baby soon, huh? After high school? Like, what the fuck? I am 16 years old. I am not ready to have a child. I do not have money for a child.
Like, this is ingrained into our culture, is the thing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm white, and I get that same thing every time I go to a family gathering.
Yeah, it's just because you're super old and haven't had a person over in ages. Got him!
Oh, the burn!
That was
you know
that was a bit much.
You know I can't say anything to that because he's right. Single tear.
No.
I'm gonna go cry now. You can find another fucking host.
Look what you've done.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight at Anime Club After Dark.
Oh my god, we can do it.
All right, well, let's move on.
Right.
Let's move on.
Well, actually, we could segue into another point about whether prejudice against lolly shota is actually racist, because Japanese people tend to look physically younger than the Western sensibilities can discern, and maybe Japanese customs are different, and their cultural sensibilities of what is ethical or what is a good age to start looking for a partner is different than the West. So is it racist to be prejudiced against lolly shotas?
Okay, so let me just say, like, I kind of agree with what you're saying, that it could be a Japanese society thing, but I think throwing that term racist around with this is kind of going a little too far. I don't necessarily think it's inherently racist. I think that it has more to do maybe with the Western sensibilities, but I don't think that necessarily makes someone who is against the depictions of lolis and shotas a racist themselves.
I personally think, Sho, that people are allowed to have preferences. All right, if you like people who look like they're 10 years old.
Justifying pedophilia with John.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you like their personality, I don't think it matters what they look like on the outside, right? You know, it's what
the more you know.
It's what's on the inside that counts more than what's on the outside. But that's not to say that people don't have preferences.
Getting
like
to the inside.
I have a friend who, you know, he's very traditional Taiwanese, and his preference for a wife is like just the typical small Chinese woman, like 5'2", stays at home, takes care of the kids type of deal. And he would prefer it if she was not voluptuous. He can't handle it, and that's just how he was raised, and that's what he wants.
You can't handle it.
He can't
handle voluptuousness.
He can't handle the thick.
Like physically.
At least that's when I first met him, but he's broadened his mind now more, especially since he's lived in America a little bit longer now, that he's realized like the ideal beauty isn't the standard of beauty of Taiwan shouldn't like be applied here in America if he really wants someone who's not oppressed like back in the old country, I would say.
Oppressed? Wait, what does petite women have to do with oppression?
The fact
boy.
It's that these petite Asian women are supposed to be like subservient to the dominant male. They're always staying at home, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, while like serving the man, always at his beck and call type of deal. And that's just,
you know what the thing is, that is what worked for the longest time in all of human history. In fact, let's be real for a moment.
Yeah.
And this isn't to be sexist or anything. This is literal history. This is what we've been as a species. But times are changing, and that's just a matter of fact. Anyways, I just want to add that on real quick. I'm sorry.
That was a good ad. Addition.
Welcome to History with Shinoda.
Yeah, history. Oh God.
World history.
World history of Shinoda. No, I just wanted.
We could talk for hours with that.
I just wanted to point out that, you know, people are allowed to have preferences, and just because you want someone who doesn't have double D's and is a size like 1 or 2, maybe a size 0, that's fine. That's not lolicon. That's not pedophile. That's just your preference.
Well, would you say people in the West that have prejudice against the lolly show as an art form are just enforcing their own standards of how a Western person would physically look onto Japanese people?
Yeah,
which
that's terrible.
Does not fit.
That's just enforcing your view of like, this is what the ideal beauty should look like, and that's not okay.
So would you say it's racist then? On some level?
I can't say it's racist.
Maybe too strong for you?
It's a prejudice. It's not racism. It's prejudice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's John makes a good point. Like prejudice in it, is that even a word?
Yes.
Prejudice-ness?
Prejudice.
Whatever.
Yeah,
prejudice is a noun itself.
Okay. Prejudice by itself is not racism. Racism occurs when you actually apply it to a subset of people all the time.
Okay. Well, that's not how I would define.
Well, that's why you're fucking wrong.
Racism. Racism is not an act.
Wrong.
Racism is not an act. It's a mindset. And prejudice is not an act. It's a mindset. Being prejudiced against a subset of genetically different people than you is being racist, in my opinion. But it's semantics. I think we agree on like the basic points.
I don't necessarily think it may be a prejudice, but I don't think it's a racist view personally.
Oh, is it sexist? What are we talking about then? Is it not prejudice based on race?
It's prejudice based on appearance.
That is genetically linked to the Japanese genome. Not genome, but whatever, you know.
Yes, but that's like saying that, okay, to me that's like saying that if I don't like a certain shade of skin, if I personally don't find that physically attractive, that means I'm racist against everyone who doesn't have a specific shade of skin, regardless of where they're from on the planet.
I'm like, to me, it's more like seeing a black person and giving them sunscreen because they're tanned. In your opinion, it's like, oh, you look tan, you need sunscreen. Oh, you're Japanese, you look young, you need to go to the fucking elementary school. To me, that's what it seems like.
No, do you know what racism is to me? Racism is walking up to an Asian person and saying, "Hey, are you Chinese?"
Okay. This has nothing to do with anything.
This is like tangenting off. I'm just saying. Quick story. I love it when people do that. They try to guess my race because they're always wrong.
Yeah, it is pretty fun. I can agree.
According to the rest of the world, the only Asians that exist are Chinese, Korean, and Japanese, which is not true.
Don't forget Indians.
Like, I have to ask John, because you did mention this. What's the weirdest like race you've ever been asked if you were?
Ooh.
honestly, I would say when they asked if I was Burmese, and I was like, how the fuck?
Burmese.
I mean, I'm half Laos, half Thai. You know, I'm Southeast Asian, so it's near there. But I was just like, who the fuck guesses Burmese? That's just weird.
It rhymes with Chinese.
Oh God.
What's it called now?
Hey,
Myanmar? Myanmar?
Yeah, it's called Myanmar now. Give him credit for knowing the country.
Yeah.
If it doesn't rhyme with Chinese, then it's not Asian.
Oh Lord.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I'm just hungry. Anyway, what was the next point we wanted to get to? Oh, okay. So another point that we wanted to get to is are lolis and or shotas simply, and we mentioned this before, just artistic exaggerations of young yet of legal age women or men?
Yes. Well, I would say
Okay.
What?
not necessarily of legal age. There's definitely a lot of loli shota artistic exaggerations of young ones that they have an undefined age, because technically you can't say that this is a depiction of a 5-year-old girl. Like, it'll always be an XX like type of age situation.
Okay. Well, I mean, the thing that jumps out to me, and this is used as a defense by Lolicons a lot, is a character like Shinobu from the Monogatari series. Like,
It's legal.
They
She's
literally
500
state her
years
age
old.
as being 500 years old.
See, the thing about Shinobu is that not only is it okay, I don't really care if it's stated whether she's 500 or not, but she acts like an adult or someone that knows what's going on, because she does know what's going on, because she doesn't act like a child. She doesn't act vulnerable or like she ignorant or naive. She acts like an adult that has been through experiences. So really, she presents herself as an adult. She may look like what the Western sensibility would consider a child, but she clearly acts like an adult. And I feel like not a lot, but a good majority of lolis and shotas that are put in these sexual situations, they do display a lot of adult-like traits. And I feel like that on many levels, adult-like traits are mixed in with childlike traits when it comes to shotas and lolis. And I think that's maybe very inherent to the art form, and that might be something that makes it different from like actual pedophilia, because lolis and shota art, they take a lot of artistic they take a lot of creative license, a lot of artistic exaggerations, and they definitely incorporate adult-like traits with that exaggeration into their art.
That kind of goes into the idea of the muscle shota and the oppai loli.
Yeah, which are semi-common trends. I've seen them on and off.
Yeah, it's certainly more common than it used to be.
Yeah, and I
I
definitely
history.
So with muscle shotas and oppai lolis, I feel like they're not true shotas and lolis. Just saying, due to the fact that, like, you know, again, I define a loli as something that looks cute and 10 years old. With oppai in it, it's like, well, now they have giant boobs. But this does bring us back to the whole, well, what if they act like a child? Like, what's that super pedophile anime? What could Kodomo no Jikan, right? Children's time.
Kodomo no Jikan,
Right.
yes.
In Kodomo no Jikan, there is an oppai loli, and this is explicitly that they are in like what 4th or 5th grade, and there's a character who has
it's elementary school for sure.
yeah, there's a freaking elementary school girl that has like double D's or some shit, and it's like that's just so physically
Jesus.
impossible, or rather, actually, it's so rare. It's not impossible; it's extremely rare, and they use that as kind of just like a sexualized thing, because you know the anime is about like sexualizing children, kind of, not really. It's a weird thing. I don't want to go into it because most people see it and that's just total like pedophile stuff, and they're not wrong. But they're not like.
I don't recommend watching it unless you want to call from the FBI.
Like Kodomo no Jikan sexualizes children, and that's what I would consider is pedophilia, right? It's
definitely pedophilia or pedophilic.
It's beyond the point, and it's beyond the point. I can argue though that it's a good show because what the show is trying to show you is not just like baiting you to watch it because, hey, look, we're sexualizing children. It's talking about children who go from post or prepubescent to pubescent and then post-pubescent. So that's why I thought it was actually not that bad of a show, if you look at it in that term. But you'd have to be able to look over the fact that it's a very uncomfortable thing to watch a show that shows like children being sexualized in a certain way.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Now, before we started this podcast, Sho pointed out to me something I'd never considered before, and that is that Hestia from Danmachi could actually be an oppai loli.
She is definitely an oppai loli because her personality, which, some people consider the personality is what makes the trait. So there can be oppai lolis if you look at it like that. Like, she has a younger body, but she has giant boobs, but she acts like a damn child.
I think the only thing childlike about her is that she's short. I don't think she has a childlike personality. Like,
she does,
you can be playful and an adult. Like, what?
Nah. But yeah, she's short, so they do depict her as, like, a loli, a small child, and also has oppais. She's also the worst, just saying.
Excuse me. Fuck
She's
you.
the bestia?
Hestia is bestia. Get the fuck out.
Yeah,
now let me ask you something.
Danmachi is a terrible show anyway, so let's move on.
Fuck
Can't
you.
argue with you.
Oh, Lord.
Danmachi's getting a second season in a movie.
Yeah, it's gonna be crap.
Fuck you. I will watch
We're moving
it. I will
on.
love it.
We are
Hopefully.
done with this.
No,
I don't want to talk about Danmachi.
No, shut up. Shut up. I wanted to ask Sho. So, do you necessarily consider Bell in that show to be a Shota?
Well, since we've categorized it, I don't think he's prepubescent, but I would consider him a Shota because he looks under 17, which is my max for Shota.
17 is not even Shota anymore. Or whatever.
Hey, he makes a fair point.
He does,
okay.
right.
Well, if I saw... anyways, like, a prepubescent child and, like, a pubescent child, like, they're both kids.
Yeah.
Like, they're both... To me, they're both, like, I treat them the same way. They're just, like, stupid kids. Is there really a difference? But, like, once you, like... After 17, like, you maybe are not stupid anymore and you have, like, some sort of, like, serious... in some way, you take life seriously. So I'm like, okay, I can take you a little seriously. But, like, before that, they're just stupid. They're all just stupid. So they're all the same. That is my medically
now who's racist?
Sound... Wait, how's that racist?
That's ageist.
That's my medically... Yeah, it's ageist. It's my medically sound analysis of puberty. You can quote me on that.
Okay,
I
Dr.
will.
Sho.
I'm just saying prepubescent and actually pubescent. That's what I would consider loli shota. And post-pubescent is just bait. That's just jail bait. That's not even pedophilia or lolicon shotacon anymore. That's just out the window.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, I would think Belle is pubescent then.
So Belle would be shota. Then, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't
by
think
that
he's
definition, Belle would be a Shota.
pubescent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, that's fair enough. Now to show you put in here the point that many times, in fact, many more times than not, animated lolis and shotas have voices that come from adult voice actors.
Yeah,
now, I have a thing about that. Okay, so I think that is more of a technical issue than anything else. Because I think that there is a distinct lack of good child voice actors in Japan.
I second this.
To do those voices.
Like, this is... No. Before you start on your whole spiel show, I have to back up my man, Alex, because he is completely right. It is rare to have good child actors, and that's why there aren't very many on the market doing shows, and that's why they use... adults. But also, I'd like to add in that there are just some adults who can exaggerate being a child better, or a lolicon or a shotacon better than a kid could. Because
like Kana Hanazawa.
Kana Hanazawa. Or in the in Death March, Arisa, she's portrayed as a loli. Like, all the characters in there are portrayed as lolis, but she's like supposed to be she acts like they call her like Grandma Arisa because she's like old. She's an old bag, but she's a loli. So it's super exaggerated how much of a lolicon she is, but she's also considered an old bag or an old hag, whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, and there are lolis and shotas in anime who have been voiced by child characters. Tsumugi in Sweetness and Lightning was voiced by a child actor.
Yep, that was
and done very, very well in my opinion.
Yeah, she was also in Barakamon.
Yes,
she was Hina. I recognized her voice.
But I mean, I think it has more to do with the technical issue of not having a whole lot of good, decent child voice actors in Japan, and I think that that you're forced to use a voice actor or actress, who typically an actress, because a lot of women do young boy voices. I think you're just forced to do it. Like, you have voice actors like Kana Hanazawa or Rie Takahashi who can pull it off really well.
So when adult voice actors do voice children, do you find it jarring or do you find it fine?
I think it depends on how it's done, because there are times when it's done really, really well, and there are times it's done really, really bad. I don't think overall I would say it's jarring. I would say that it's definitely noticeable when they use a voice actor or actress who doesn't have a lot of skill doing it.
I feel that it's very inherent to the industry that adult voice actors voice child characters, because it just happens so much, and I feel like it's very common. And I brought up this point not trying to encourage more child actors, because when you do lolly shota content that is very sexual, obviously you would not want child actors to do that. But I do bring this up not to concern with why the actors are adult or children, because as you said, there's just a lack of child actors, but more so that it is just a fact that there is more adult actors, and the effect of that is that a lot of child characters have clearly discernible adult voices with adult sensibilities, and adults, like, you can tell they've had a lot of experience acting. You can try to act innocent, but you can clearly tell that it's a put on innocence, that a lot of experience has culminated into that, and that experience is, to me, very like apparent, like, and I feel that it's very jarring for me when an actual child actor comes in, because it's completely different. It's a different style than when an adult voice actor is voicing a child, because it's a very different set of skills put into the voice acting. And as well as voice actors, like obviously all of the people that work on lolly shota art are adults, and obviously, like, the scriptwriters, everything is adult, and I feel like in some ways their adult sensibilities comes through in the final product, and I feel that there's a very large combination of the adult sensibilities into these works that are supposedly about children. And actually it comes to mind because a lot of Disney movies like do the same, obviously. Some of the voice actors are actually child actors in Disney, and obviously all the animators are adults. But to me, Disney goes for a more authentic child depiction, whereas in anime, I feel like they don't even try to go authentic. They physically try really hard to inject adult sensibilities into their work that focus on children. So I think anime in particular really melds the adult and childlike for that reason. Yeah.
I would argue, though, that there are some shows where they choose and have child actors, voice actors, that are just slice of life. Like, for example, Sweetness and Lightning, Tsumugi is voiced by legitimate, like, 9-year-old. And
definitely
going to Barakamon, the cast of the young characters. In Barakamon, Naru and Hina are also voiced by children, and they act like kids. They fit the role perfectly. The characters are written to be actually children who live on an island. Hina's the crybaby, and then Naru is just like the village scamp, and she just runs around being such a little piece of shit. And I love her. God, I love Naru. She's so cute. Anyway.
Like, to me, when I was watching Sweetness and Lightning, I found it jarring that Tsumugi was acted. I find it very obvious and jarring that she was acted by a child actor, just because it's something you don't see a lot, and that it's something unique and something that you wouldn't get to see or hear very much, because most other anime don't do that.
Yeah. Are you saying it's jarring in a bad way or a good way?
I'd say jarring in a good way.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're right, because a lot of writers who do insert Lolicon or Shotacon characters, they tend to just mix them up with, like, here they just look young, but they act like adults. It's really weird. And then I have become very accustomed to that. You're right. And I that's why I really enjoy it when they do use kid characters who actually act like children. If they're supposed to act like children. It's really hard to get an adult to act like that.
Yeah.
Not difficult, but if an adult will act like that, then it'll moreover speak to their acting prowess than anything.
That's true.
Yeah.
I just think child actors aren't that very good at acting.
I think it's a lot because they don't have the experience as the adult actors.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Well, the few child actors that I have seen are mostly pretty talented, but I'm assuming like the pool is very low.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the pool is not very deep for child actors, or especially child voice actors in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Understandably.
I mean,
yeah.
When you have like, I'm not sure if you guys know Nanahira or Real. They're artists in Japan, and Nanahira she literally sounds like a lolly. Like, that's just her regular voice. I'm not even kidding. She just has an anime voice, and she sounds like a lolly. Real also sounds like a lolly. She sounds like a middle schooler, and they've always sounded like that, and that's kind of how they got started on Nico Nico Doga, because that's just how they sound when they sing, and people just label them as like the legal lolly and the middle schooler. But I love both Nanahira and Real, their music. I love their voices, but why would you use a child actor when you can just use that instead? That's what I'm trying to get at. When you have people who do sound like they're younger, it's just fine like that. It's just better than trying to get an actual child actor. Like, if you're thinking about recording, because you're in the studio, you're voice acting, you're working there for a couple hours every day for a couple weeks, like to a couple months. It's pretty tough, and it's tougher on children because they're so not used to working that hard. But being an adult and having a voice like that, I feel like you have more of an opportunity to get selected to be in a cast, unless the producers really wanted the authentic, like, we want children playing these characters.
There's something else to consider too. I don't know how it is with the anime industry or the voice acting industry in Japan. I do know here in the US, when you have a child actor or even a voice actor, there are certain restrictions, that there's things they can't do. There's only a certain amount of hours they can work every day. So there's a lot of technical aspects that go into it that you have to consider when you hire a child actor. Speaking
of the US, like, even in dubs, they use all adult actors mostly, and I don't mind it, but you can tell they're adults, and it's very jarring when there's actually an English speaking child actor in a dub. Like, you can tell. Very apparent.
Like Ash Ketchum.
And I don't think it's bad.
Ash Ketchum is a 10-year-old boy voiced by a 40-year-old woman. Did not sound like a 10-year-old boy. Definitely doesn't act like a 10-year-old boy.
Or hell, what about the English dub for Haruhi? The main character is voiced by a 44-year-old woman.
Wait, in the dub?
In the dub, when Wendy Lee is 40. Well, I think she was 44 when she recorded that.
And she's supposed to be like 16. Yeah.
And she's supposed to be 16, 17 years old.
Yeah. It's just how that's the industry.
Her character.
Man.
I think Haruhi has the disposition of a 44-year-old.
Okay.
Well, that's a good point to move on. So, next topic we want to cover. Do these depictions of lolis and shotas necessarily pose a threat to or increase the chance of real-world harm to actual children?
I mean, I'm going to keep this short and simple. I don't think so. Because
I don't think so either.
I said I was going to keep it short and simple, but the summary of it is just that people who are pedophiles and people who are lolicons are, to me, different. That's not to say that there's no crossover. There could be, but generally people who can keep themselves in check for their kinks and all that stuff will keep themselves in check, right? Like,
Yeah. That has more to do with willpower than anything else.
Yeah, and that's it. It's done. That's all I want to talk about.
We talked about the distinction between the criminal themselves and the media used to justify, quote unquote, justify the criminal act, and they're very different.
Okay.
But does anyone else have anything to say about that?
No, I think we already covered it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that another, related point to that we haven't really talked about is loli shota content offensive to victims of child abuse?
It definitely can
I think
be.
if you are a victim of child abuse, you probably aren't actively seeking out content that engages in stuff that could be considered child abuse. So if the victim of child abuse never sees it, can they be offended by it?
But Shali's a
shota loli. Is that like an intersexed loli?
Stop. Okay, no. Loli shota elements are really common in mainstream anime that really has nothing to do with sexual themes. They're just thrown about everywhere. So, I mean, even if you're not looking for it, you might still find it.
Yeah, but
I guess
everywhere.
All right, but the lolly shotas that we see on mainstream television that's, aired everywhere is pretty fucking like PG, right?
It's PG, but
you have to really look for
sexual themes there, like literal sexual themes, maybe not like fucking, but like hitting on, yes.
I mean, I feel like a lot of the lollies and the shotas in these mainstream shows are just used as like, haha, look at this lolly or shota, ho 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 ho. It's not so explicit like in Bakemonogatari where he's literally kissing her chest and bouncing her up and down.
And groping Hachikuji.
Yeah. So I'd say
is it though? I feel like a lot of harems have a lolly that is sexualized, and like a lot of non-harems, just a lot of shows that have female cast, there's a token lolly that is sexualized.
I feel like that's just part of the culture, though. There's, in harems especially, there's always going to be a lolly. There's always going to be an Onii-chan. There's always going to be a childhood friend.
That doesn't necessarily mean people can't be offended by it, it's completely valid that people could be offended by that, especially if they were a victim of child abuse.
I don't really understand the question here.
So basically, the thing is that, okay, in Japan, this is pretty common. They air anime on day television, and the mainstream stuff, some of it has sexualized lollies in it, which will be seen, presumably, by victims of child abuse because it's so publicly available and shoved in the Japanese public's face. So, is that okay?
I think it's okay for them to air their content because I don't think the intent of the content creators was to like help open the scar and make it harder for this person to be on their path of recovery. I feel like that's more of a mental thing. I mean, obviously, if you get offended at it, you get offended at it. But if the intent of the creator was just to like, it's just a running gag of like this type of trope, then I don't see much of a problem with that. Obviously, if you're that offended by it because of culture, like people...
Just turn it off.
Well, the people who claim themselves to be lolicons, right? That specific culture of like neckbeard, they are pretty kind of fucking weird. And I wouldn't necessarily say that... I wouldn't not be offended because I'm actually pretty sure I would be offended by those type of neckbeards who have like waifu pillows of 10-year-olds if I was a abuse victim, or I guess I would be a shota since I'm a boy. Am I a boy? I don't remember anymore.
Wow.
Shota does not denote a victim of child abuse.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But the point I would like to make is like, I think John's right. I don't think anyone who does these sort of depictions of loli or shota characters actively seeks to open up mental scars of people. And the simple fact is, if people do see this and they are offended by it, they can always turn it off. They don't have to watch it. They don't have to support it.
I'm saying that sometimes you don't have the option. Like, you can be...
You can always turn a TV off.
No.
Trust me, I've done it many times in my life.
You could be at a public venue with a public television playing something... Don't you think that's disruptive to someone's daily life?
I think if it actually is a public venue, they're probably not going to be showing stuff that's too sexually explicit.
I'm saying that they probably will, because I think a lot of the anime is publicly done on day television.
Well, if they're really that offended, then they should do something about it, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell them to...
What do you mean? What would they do?
Well, for starters, if they're at a public venue... All right, first of all, if someone who is a victim of child abuse wanted to go to a public venue that did show, like, borderline lolicon rape, then I don't think they are at the right venue, quite honestly. But they can take it up with anyone who's in charge. Like, hey, like, that's not cool.
Yeah, take it up with management.
Create an online support group.
Sure. So would you say that that kind of content, maybe not offensive, but is it insensitive? Is it out of taste?
Oh, it can certainly be done in bad taste, of course.
But, I mean,
there's comedy that's done in bad taste.
If you go to, like, a public venue or event, like, let's say you go to Comic-Con and you go to the aisle that has a bunch of lolly doujins, you can't just go there and be like, I'm offended at this. Like, you know that this is a place where these type of people gather. Why are you here telling them to shut their shit down just because you're uncomfortable? Like, you made all this effort to get here. If it was, like you said, in a public place, like, I don't know, we're downtown in Manhattan, and then all of a sudden people started playing lolly porn, I'd be like, yeah, that's fucked up. No, that should not happen. But if it's just an innocent thing, like, look at this show and it has little girls in cute dresses, then I'm just like, well, it's just little girls in cute dresses. Don't sexualize it. It's not overtly sexualized. It's yourself and your mind doing it.
I feel like a lot of shows do overtly sexualize.
I think it's just because
it does depend on the show. It does depend on the show.
No, I'm not even talking about, like, shotas. Like, I don't see a lot of shotas overtly sexualized. I'm talking about a lot of lollies are overtly sexualized, which obviously I am not doing because I am not interested in that personally. But I see it happen. So, well, I don't know. Maybe we just watch different shows.
I think it has more along the lines to do with what John said. Like, if it actually is in a public venue, you have a couple of options. You can either take it up with management if you truly are offended. You could leave. You could start a support group or something. You could start a discussion online about it. But I think that if you truly are in a public place and you're that easily offended by it, for whatever reason, whether it's because you were a victim or whatever, you're in the wrong place. I mean, really.
Like, I'm talking about the situation where, like, yeah, you go to the dentist, there's a television playing daytime television, an anime comes on, and a lolly is groped.
Ask them to change the channel.
Okay.
All right. First of all, who the fuck plays anime during daytime television at a dentist's office? This is so unrealistic of a situation.
I know.
Damn good dentist. That's
no,
me.
I'm talking like
damn good dentist.
I don't think you want that dentist to be taking care of your kid's teeth. By the way, then. He may.
I can just imagine, like, going in for, like, a root canal or something, and they put you under with the Novocaine, and they just put a TV in front of you while you're having the operation. It's like some lolly getting groped, and you just start, Doc. Turn it off. Get from my mouth.
I don't know what you want us to say here, Sho. I really don't.
I don't know. You don't believe that, like, sexual depictions of lollies are publicly displayed in Japan?
Well, since I haven't been there, I can't say.
Yeah, I can't say for a certain. I assume there's got to be at least one depiction somewhere.
I mean, I feel like...
Hold on, I'm gonna hit Tom up, see if he knows.
If we went to, like, Akihabara, right, I'm pretty sure there'd be a lot of Moe Lolicon trash there just to get those neck beards in there to buy shit. Like, no joke, probably that. But, again, we know that Akihabara has places like that. Maybe you shouldn't go to Akihabara if it's gonna trigger you.
The only thing I know for a fact, because, like, obviously, I've been to Japan for, like, 2 weeks, but I obviously haven't, like, been to a dentist office in Japan or anything. I don't know Japan that well, but I know for sure that there are anime posters on public trains, and some of them are sexualized lollies. So, that.
Make the money. I mean, shit. They got all these neckbeards to leave their apartments and give them money.
Honey.
Again,
what about the victims? Okay, whatever. We can move on because we're not going anywhere.
If you truly are offended, there are ways you could let that be known.
But should you be promoting this offensive content in the first place? God, so insensitive.
I'm moving on because you could argue this for the rest of your fucking life.
All right, so what we're going to do now is just blindfold everyone, chop their hands off, and we're all going to live under the strict regime of fear show, where we have literally no depiction of anything. We can't even see, and we can't hear, we can't speak, so no one can offend anyone anymore.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
Mein Fisch.
On that note.
Yeah.
On that note, moving on. So the last couple of points that we want to make here, excuse me, is the concept and use of lolis and shotas necessarily unique to Japanese and otaku culture, or do we think there are Western equivalents?
All right, I'm confused about the question, man. Is the concept and use of lolis and shotas unique to Japanese culture? I would argue that it's no, because first of all, lolicon is derived from Lolita, which is from, like, you know, that dude who wrote that book, Lolita.
A Russian novel.
Yeah, which talks about his attraction to his...
That was really counterculture, though. It wasn't really...
Yeah, but...
endorsed by the majority culture.
I mean, I would say that lolicon and shotacon and all that stuff, they're used as terms to just describe in a negative way a person, but as time has progressed and the culture has advanced, we've just come to accept it. Like, yeah, if I like a certain thing, then I would be considered this. Like, if I like mecha, yeah, I'm all about mecha, then I would be a mecha head, right? Or
Robocon.
a Robocon.
Yeah,
Robocon. I'd be a Robomaniac. That's what they would call him. You'd be
how do you fuck a Gundam?
Well, first of all, have you ever bought a Gunpla and assembled it? You can just...
No, I haven't.
You should.
Does it have a dick?
Well, I mean...
You use industrial grade lube.
Industrial grade lube.
Industrial grade lube.
My point is, like, Japan definitely coined the term, and that's where it started, you know, calling someone a lolicon or a shotokan. But I don't think there are any Western equivalents to it, because most of the Western culture adapts to Japanese culture, right? Like the weeaboos. The weebs, like us, just adapt their phrases. It's not like we reinvented them. I don't have an equivalent to saying lolicon, other than calling you a pedophile. Or a titty, or a kitty diddler, whatever.
kitty fiddler, you mean?
Oh no.
Diddles kitties.
I think you mean a kitty fiddler.
I don't.
a kidney fiddler. What?
I don't have any other equivalent.
That's a really weird sexual fetish. I like to go to hospitals and fiddle people's kidneys.
Hey man, don't knock it till you try it.
Lord.
Well, the things that came to mind when I wrote this question was the gay term twinks, which I personally think is equivalent to a shota, where if you don't know what a twink is, it's like a young gay man that looks like he has boyish features.
I did not know that.
So, oh, you didn't?
No.
Like,
I thought twink was
like,
equivalent to just calling someone gay. I did not know that. All right. Okay.
No,
like, it's an actual subculture
like,
within like gay culture.
Oh.
Like skinny, not a lot of hair. They look boyish. They have boyish features. They look
definitely
young.
Boyish in the face.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that.
And
oh, it's like when you call someone a bear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of a
exactly.
twink.
All right. Okay. I get it now.
And like on Pornhub, one of the top searched phrases
I thought you didn't
is
use Pornhub.
barely legal. Shut up. I don't.
Barely legal.
I read this on
Yeah, okay.
So like I feel that the culture of lolly shota is not so far away from Western culture, because I feel like there are definitely elements in our culture, in our popular culture, that endorse childlike features in what we would consider attractive mates.
I mean, if you really
So
want
I don't
to,
think
if
it's
you want to
that.
go down that route, like jailbait is an equivalent, because jailbait as a term in Western culture, it just means like a woman who we know definitely is younger than 18, so she's not of legal age, but she looks super hot, right? That's just jailbait, and it's not restricted to any type of age. They could be 14, and if they have a dynamite body, like, oh, that's jailbait, you know? So that
Yeah,
true.
and that's a term that's typically applied to women and not men.
Yeah.
More often than not, it can be applied to men, but it's more often than not applied to women.
so that's all I have.
And that's
honestly.
like that's like jailbait, I would say, is like a pretty socially acceptable term to use, when really you're saying like, I find this underage person attractive, which if you said that, then you know you'd get weird stares. But if you say jailbait, it's okay.
Well, I mean, in a group of friends, when they're talking about younger women, they'd say jailbait, you know? It's because it's a group of friends type of deal. I mean, you wouldn't go around talking to a stranger like, oh, man, look at that jailbait right there. Like, they would look at you and be like, officer, I think I have a potential rapist pedophile next to me. Like, Moshi Moshi
But
911 desk.
It's kind of a term that men who know can use to tell men they don't know that, hey, don't go after that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel
You'll
like
have a bad time.
You're going to jail.
I brought up this question, or I wrote down this question, because I feel like a lot of prejudice against all these shotas, the reasoning they use is like, oh, it's so foreign from our culture. This is so weird. Like, why would you do that? That's so weird. It's like, but your culture does it too.
I mean,
So,
you have a bunch of
know.
old dudes, like, you know, 50, 60-year-old dudes who want to date blonde hair, blue-eyed, 5'3", straight from Russia type of women who are barely 18. How is that any different? Like, I'm willing...
I feel like is that frowned upon? Because I feel like that's frowned upon.
It's frowned
Not
upon,
really.
but it happens a lot more often than you'd think. And I feel like if there was no stigma against dating people who were 16, like, let's say we lowered the legal age of consent to 16 instead of 18, we'd have plenty of 50, 60-year-old men trying to date 16-year-olds. So I feel like the fact that people view it as like, oh, that's disgusting, they're pedophiles. I'm like, well, there's a line here. Like, there are plenty of men who won't say that they'll date a 16-year-old, but I guarantee you you, given the chance to, the opportunity to, without being caught and no repercussions for it, they will. I think it's bullshit that they say they don't. That's a lie.
I feel like if the age of consent did lower, that there wouldn't be well, there might be a bit of backlash, but I feel like in general the culture would accept it in America or in the West in general. So, I mean,
well, we
like...
accept it right now. You know, a 16-year-old bangs a 19-year-old, that's fine. A 15-year-old bangs an 18-year-old, that's questionable, but generally fine. But then when we raise that to like a 25-year-old bangs a 16-year-old, like that's questionable. Then we double that age. Well, a 5-year-old bangs a 16-year-old. That's rape. That's pedophile. That's stigmas against it.
Which really doesn't make logical sense to me.
It doesn't, but that's how it is. That's how it is.
Most of it isn't logical, is the thing.
People think it's fine for the people, like a 16-year-old banging a 16-year-old. That's completely fine. Like, that's kids. That's teenagers. That's what teenagers do. But then that 16-year-old now goes and bangs someone who's literally twice her age, like a 32-year-old. There's a stigma now. Like, what was the difference between a 16-year-old versus a 16 and 32?
Well, you would argue that there's a difference in power, but I mean,
if a 16-year-old consented to it, that brings up the article I linked a couple days ago.
But they say, I mean, legally speaking, they say a 16-year-old can't consent to it because they're not in power. They don't have the power to consent.
Yeah, that's legally, but if we're talking medically, it's 21, right? 21 to 25 is when your frontal cortex finally fully develops, so you can actually make sound and logical. Well, they say you can make sound and logical decisions.
Allegedly, sound and logical decisions.
23 to 25, if I remember right, is
23, 25, yeah. Right? So that's
mid-20s.
Yeah, but in the case that I posted a couple of days ago, the co-creator of CS Counter-Strike, who was soliciting sex from a what was it? I forgot what it was called. One of those escort websites, and it turns out that one of the girls that he was seeing was actually underage, and she was 16. Now he's being charged with obviously having sex with a minor and all that stuff, but he didn't know she was 16. He didn't look for a 16-year-old or anything. He went through a third-party website that promised him to get escorts. He pays for their time, and that girl is the one who broke the law. She's 16 years old, but she chose to sign up for the site, which clearly says she has to be 18. But the
website broke the law too.
Yeah, so that's my scenario. Why is it that this case now that we're looking at the dude and calling him a pedophile and calling him scum? I personally don't think he did anything wrong. Obviously, if he wants, he's obviously a powerful man or a successful man, has a lot of money. If he wants to spend his money on escorts and the escorts so happen to just be basically high-class prostitutes, what's the deal? And if it was a 16-year-old that snuck into an 18-year-old event, it's well, you were supposed to be 18, but you were the one who broke the law. I don't think this guy did anything wrong, but they're going to label him a pedophile. He's going to be a sex offender now. It's fucked.
So, say hypothetically, he did know she was 16 years old. He did know she was 16 years old. Yeah. But he still solicited her. Would that change your view on this?
Yeah, if he was soliciting her because he knew she was 16, not the fact that because she looked young. Story. That's a whole different thing.
Now the thing is, go ahead.
I wouldn't necessarily say that he was a pedophile still, because again, like I said, I guarantee you a lot of men look at 16-year-olds and you're just like, damn, I want that, but they just know they can't have it, so they don't say it. They're just, suppressing themselves because they have to, because society is like that. You're not allowed to fuck a 16-year-old unless you're 16 yourself.
So, the problem with this situation is that we can't read his mind. We don't know whether he actually did know or did not know. He says he did not know, but we can't prove that. And if we let him go scot-free, then it's setting a precedent for other people to say that, oh, I didn't know, but did you actually not? There's really not any good solution as to the only good solution would be to know what he was thinking, but since we can't know that, I think the only practical solution is to arrest him for child molestation.
I mean, here's the thing though. He goes through a third-party website that hooks you up with escorts, right? This website is geared towards successful, rich people who don't want to waste time on finding dates and stuff. They just want a young, pretty person. They want sugar babies. That's what they want, and they're going to be sugar daddies or sugar mamas.
Actually, you know what? I think there is a solution to this. is prostitution illegal where he is?
Yeah, it's illegal. It was in Washington. It's illegal.
Oh, it's illegal.
However,
so
I'd like to point out that he used an escort service. So this is not technically prostitution. What you do is you pay this company to send out one of their
it turned into prostitution.
No, you're not guaranteed sex. Sex is not on the table. It's just you're literally just buying their time for the evening. And I can tell you that with escort services, a lot of the older gentlemen and women who use the escort service only just want a good time, like have good company. Like generally speaking, the escorts are just people who know how to talk to you to make you feel like you matter at the moment. Like that's why I think it's a world of difference between prostitution, because prostitution is literally you just pay for sex. Just because in an escort service that it can end in sex doesn't mean it's prostitution. That's completely up to the girl or the guy if they choose to sleep with the person.
But if they do choose, does it not then become prostitution?
No, because if you go on a date with a girl and you pay for everything, and at the end of the date she wants to have sex with you, that's not prostitution.
Okay.
That's my argument.
If I may, if I may get this back to lolis and shotas.
Go right ahead.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I don't even know how I'm going to segue this. I honestly don't. So I'm going to go on to the next point because I think we've thoroughly explored this point.
I know. I think it's a little.
So the final, good lord, the final point I want to throw out there, and then we'll end this. I swear, this has been going on for a long time. Does the age of the viewer of lolis and shota content have any impact on the actual ethics of viewing it?
I would say it depends on the media that they're watching. Like, obviously, there are PG-13 risque lolly type stuff, like Dog Days. If you've ever seen Dog Days, that's considered PG, but they have like tentacle monsters and stuff, and they put the little girls who are doing transformation scenes in like sexual positions. Like, this show is obviously dirty-minded, but it's technically nothing wrong, because if a child saw that, they'd be like, oh, there's a tentacle monster. But us adults, because we're all dirty and disgusting, filthy things, we've lost our innocence long ago. We automatically go, oh my god, that's so lewd. So
adults are lewd,
adults,
man.
because we've seen some shit, man. We know shit.
Oh no.
But like, if an underage person views, obviously an underage person viewing porn is obviously illegal. But don't act like you haven't done it before, Joe.
I mean, they have an age rating system for these shows, right? Like,
That's true.
Like I said, Dog Days is an example of a PG. It's a literal PG magical girl show type of deal. Like, he goes to a different world and they do like PG things, but they have risque scenes that as an adult you'd be like, oh my god, that's like filthy, because we have dirty minds. But if you were a child, like age 10 years old, and watching it, you'd be none the wiser. It's just like watching Disney movies and seeing the adult jokes. Like, I've rewatched plenty of child cartoons, and I've seen child cartoons or movies like Toy Story and stuff, or Lion King, and you see a lot of sexual jokes that just go over your head when you're little, but they're kind of just there as like a nod to the parents, right?
Yeah.
So
it's aimed at the parents that brought their children to the show.
I think it's very different, verbal sexual jokes and physical sexual jokes. Like, I feel like it's very easy to for a verbal sexual joke to go over your head, and then a physical sexual joke may not go over your head because it's in your face.
Yeah, but again, if you were a small child, you wouldn't know what that was anyway. So it wouldn't matter that much. It wouldn't make an impact if you didn't know. That's what I'm arguing.
You really think that 13 to 15-year-old guys or boys don't like,
all right, so first of all,
sexual themes?
Being a pubescent child, you see sex in everything. Like, you can look at an extra curvy piece of wood and you'll be like, oh my god, I need to bust a nut right now. Right? You're just a horny teenager. I'm saying, if a 5-year-old kid goes and watches a 5-year-old, like rated for 5-year-olds show, and they have adult jokes, that's fine, because the adult jokes are not for the kids. The kids will never get that.
So what if a pubescent kid watches Sword Art Online and really likes the tentacle rape scene in the first season, not the Asuna one? There are multiple.
First off, they have shit taste in anime. Second of all, they deserve it because they're watching a shitty anime.
I mean, that show is...
Sword Art Online is rated PG-13,
yeah,
so they can watch it. Like, is that pedophilic? I mean, not pedophilic. Is that like ethical? Because a lolly is getting raped.
I mean, she was in a rapey situation, but she didn't actually get raped. Like, she was being molested, right?
Sure.
It was just to showcase how creepy the dude is. But then,
I
obviously,
wonder, can you use that defense in court?
Yeah, obviously, like, they intended to... The intent of that scene, specifically, was to just make you hate the bad guy. That he's just a fucking scumbag.
Okay, wait. To be specific, I'm talking about the scene where the lolly dragon girl gets, like, attacked by, like, some plant tentacle thing out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
And she gets, like, groped. And then Kirito has to, like, save her. Like, that just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, but...
It's very sexual.
However, that's just a trope of, like, tentacle plant monsters doing tentacle plant monster things. It wasn't like Kirito was like, woo, baby! Or then had lecherous looks.
She was, like, making noises and blushing.
Yeah, because that's the trope.
You can't say that it wasn't... Yeah, but, like, it's intended to be a sexual trope.
Yeah, but that's the joke. That's for the, haha, you look at you sick fucks, you like tentacle porn?
That's supposed to... Wait, that's not a joke, please! That's not for comedy. That's for pandering.
Yeah, it's pandering to people who like tentacle porn.
And what if that kid likes tentacle?
Then he has a new kink. What are you to shame him for?
Yeah. He's clearly one of us, if that's the case.
I expected you to not kink shame anyone, Sho. You of all people,
yeah.
I didn't shame anyone. Just asking the questions.
I thought would be a lot more tolerant of other people's kinks.
Excuse you. What are you implying?
What's the you people?
What do you mean?
Oh my.
Anyway, I think we're getting off topic here because I do not think there is a problem with that. I don't think there was any impact involved to that child's mental health, and only because you are a dirty adult and you're the one thinking of tentacle rape and you're the bad person.
But what if
dirty Shotokan.
Like, I mean, kids can think of tentacle rape too, like even at that age.
Yeah, if they're pubescent and they're going through puberty, then obviously the hormones will rage and they'll connect the two dots and they'll be like, I wonder why my penis is hard. But what's wrong with that? They're exploring their sexuality. Like, they are turned on by they're turned on by tentacle porn. What?
So that's the point, in that, like, it's okay for kids to watch other kids get raped. This is very strange. This is a very strange sentence to have. But, like, it's problematic because adults are watching it, but, like, the content stayed the same, only the viewer changed.
I feel like you're implying that the rape happened. Like, there was no penetration. The rape didn't happen. All it was just...
whatever. It was a rape situation. They were implying rape. Okay. I don't know. Okay, it was unconsensual. There was sexual groping. It was rape. Don't even talk to me.
The plant monster did not. You
don't need penetration for rape.
God,
How do you know there was no penetration?
You know what? You're right.
Oh my God! Just stop.
I'm just gonna stop now because this is getting out of hand. This is getting out of tentacles.
This is getting out of tentacles for sure. I personally. I think kind of along the lines of John, where the age of the viewer doesn't necessarily have any bearing on the ethics of the situation as is. Now, if you want to say it's bad parenting, letting a young child watch something like that, then sure.
I mean, kids watch all tons of shit. Like, is it really? I mean, the parents can only do so much. But like,
true. And if a child wants to find gross shit like that, then they're going to. It doesn't matter what you do.
The Japanese system rates it PG-13. So, like, what are parents supposed to do?
They can still tell their children, no, you can't watch it. I'll beat your ass.
I mean, sure.
You gotta be on your report card. Pa, pa, pa.
I don't think a lot of children even watch
childhood.
PG-13 anime, quite honestly. I feel like in Japan, anime is a phase thing where, like, when you're a child watching anime, it's fine, like watching Yokai Watch or something. Then by the time you hit, like, middle school, there's, like, only a small handful of people who are still watching that type of stuff. Like, and then getting into a hardcore, like, SAO with the tentacle rape scene stuff. I think that's rare.
I like how SAO is hardcore.
Hardcore rape scene stuff.
Can we please not label SAO as hardcore?
According to you, Show, it is.
No, I use SAO because it's like such a soft core. It's like such a common. Like,
it's a floppy penis.
Soft. Stop.
It is a floppy penis.
Stop.
It's such a common show. It's not a niche show. It's a very common show. Anyways, yes, okay, I agree with you.
We're done.
Fuck you. Fine.
All I needed to hear, Show agrees with me. There, that's it.
See, your night is complete, isn't it?
I win.
All right, Janoda, you got something to say?
Nah, fam.
Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna end this now while we're ahead, and the FBI hasn't broken down my door. I'm still here. Thank all of you out there for God damn it. Thank you all out there for dropping in to listen to us. We really hope you enjoyed it because we always enjoy bringing this stuff to you. If you want to check out previous episodes of this or any other episode of the podcast, you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, or YouTube. If you want to keep up with what we're doing and have a little fun, you can join our Facebook group, you can follow our Twitch channel, and you can visit our website. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, criticisms, concerns of this or any episode, feel free to shoot us an email. Links to all of these things will be down below in the description. As always, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, everyone.
Don't fuck kids.
Night. Oh my
yeah, don't fuck kids. Please.
It's not good. It's not good.
Come on.